All right, welcome back to Lean Brothers. I wanted to basically ask you how much the CNC machines are. And to preface that, right now you have 4 CNC machines.
Correct.
But you've had others in the past.
We have.
So, one, I want to know how much your CNC machines cost.
Okay.
But first I want to talk about your first CNC machine, because I know that one. Because you started with that CNC machine, you built a shop in your backyard, and put that CNC machine there. I know it was a 4x8, it was a Laguna, and it was a manual everything.
Correct.
And I know when you started your business, or when I started buying more machines for mine, it helped push me, learning from your experience of the Laguna, to change my thinking for my business. So, before we get into your specific machines, based off of your opinion, and this is just Tyler's opinion, what is a good, maybe starter CNC and a rough price range? And then we'll talk about yours.
So that's a really good question, really interesting question. So to answer that, obviously it depends, right? It depends on what you're trying to do. So when I started out, I had actually originally ordered a little desktop Laguna CNC. And now I as far as the Laguna CNC goes, I actually really liked it. It was a great machine. It was a great starter machine. It taught me a lot. So if you're just going into, some basic stuff, some hobbyist stuff, there's nothing wrong with those machines. They really are great. And it taught me things that honestly I would have never learned had I not had a bigger, or had I not had more of a, I don't know what I'm trying to say.
Like a manual experience?
Yeah, having that manual experience, I would have never learned that had we bought the big CNC first. That's a good way to put it. So I ordered this desktop, but the problem, it was brand new and it was taking a little longer than I wanted, and I had actually landed a contract to make these picture frames. And they had to be routed out. There was a lot that was going on with them. And so finally I'm like, well, I've got to do something because I got to start making these things. And so I called Laguna and said, hey, what if I just got a 4x8 instead of the smaller one? And they said, yeah, we've got them in stock. But the shipping and getting it into my garage, all that stuff, wasn't going to work out real well. So I actually drove to California and picked it up.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So I picked it up because I thought, well, if I drive it, I can, because they were going to ship it on a semi. I had no idea how I was going to get it off the semi into my shop. And so I just took a trailer there. And I backed the trailer right in and took it off.
Because that original shop, how big was the shop you built?
The original shop was 700 square feet. It was 20 by 34. So we put it in there, started making picture frames. Like Darren said, it was very manual. Every single bit, whenever I had to use a different bit, I had to take the collet out.
I remember
put it
you
in,
would have the 2 wrenches to go opposite directions, and it had a little metal thing that you'd put on to do the
it was like
Z
a little
height.
puck. And that puck, you'd bring it down and it would come down and touch it, and then it would set your height.
You could get a lot closer to that machine than you can these ones.
Oh yeah.
It had no safety.
There was it went so slow, and you could probably, if you pushed hard enough, maybe stop it. I don't know. But anyway, it, like I say, it was a great machine. It really was. I learned a ton with it. I made some good money with it. But
I do want you to tell you about the story real quick about the guy that bought
it. How much of the story you want? Well, that could be a whole video in and of itself.
Just how he paid for it.
Got it. Yeah. So this guy, he came, he looked at it, he wanted it, and told me he wanted it. He said he'd meet me and bring me some money. So anyway, I called him, and he said, hey, where can I meet you to give you money? I've got cash for it. So, great. I'm like, well, meet me at the bank. I want to make sure that's legit. It was a pretty big chunk of money. So we meet at the bank. He pulls up in kind of a dumpy old car, gets in the trunk.
I think I remember it being like an old Honda Civic.
It was a Toyota Corolla.
Old
Toyota Corolla, just kind of hammered, right? Opens up the trunk, pulls out a couple of wads, and it was like $16,000, I think is what I sold it for. So he pulls it out. So I'm like, great. We go into the bank because I want him to count it, make sure it's legit and deposited in my account. So the teller asks me, hey, where did you get this money? I said, well, this guy's buying a CNC from me. So, great. Can we talk to him for a minute? So I'm like, these guys want to, and in the meantime, he's standing back in the corner, like he doesn't really want to do it. So finally I get him to come up, and the teller says, hey, where's this money from? He goes, I don't have to tell you that. If he just walked in here with the money, you wouldn't have to be asking me that. I'm not going to tell you where I got it. So finally they just checked, made sure it was legit, put it in my account, and the guy walked away. But then, here's the kicker.
Well, he didn't pick it up for a while, right?
No, he didn't. So I had the machine, and I would call him, hey, you ever going to come get this? I think it was somewhere 4 to 6 months after he gave me the money that he finally picked it up. So, it was super weird, but anyway.
All right, back to the subject at hand. So you had the Laguna. That was a good CNC. Based off of your opinion now, like even if you want to mention a brand or a price, like what would you consider a good entry-level commercial machine? Because I know you can get like shop bots and Shippokus and things for like the hobbyist market that are sub $10,000. And there might be a commercial one that I'm not aware of that's in that price range, but like I even think 20 years ago or whatever, when you bought your first one, I think that was like $20,000 for the Laguna.
It was $23,000.
So what would you consider either an entry-level machine specifically, or the price range that you're looking at to buy an entry-level machine?
So to buy an entry-level commercial machine, and granted I haven't checked lately, I don't know what's happened, but the last I checked, Homag makes a machine. It's very similar to the ones we have. A little different tool changer, doesn't hold as many tools, a few less features, but all in all, and it doesn't push off. It's just a single machine, just like our Laguna was.
Like a manual load, manual offload.
Yep. And I think, that was actually my first commercial machine. That's what we bought. But this one is actually, I would call it a step less than that. I don't remember what they call it, but it fits in a small area. It has folding safety gates, so if you need to get things out of the way. And last time I heard, it was somewhere $70,000. It's probably gone up a little bit from there. $70,000 to $80,000 is about where that was, and that's going to be an amazing entry level machine. And it's not really entry level. It just doesn't have the features that some of the ones that we have. It's still going to be, an amazing spindle. The suction's going to be good on it. It's going to cut just as fast as our machines. It's a solid built machine, and it's going to last you for years.
Now, transitioning, you currently have 4 CNCs.
Correct.
And we've talked about it. You can see it in the shop tour. 3 horizontal, 1 vertical. I know the vertical is the newest.
Correct.
It probably is also the least has the least amount of features.
You'd be surprised, actually. We'll do a little tour of that one down the road.
Okay. So, knowing that the vertical is the newest one you have, how much was that one?
Around 160,000, give or take a little bit.
Okay. Are there cheaper ones?
Cheaper verticals?
Yes.
Yes, there are.
Are there cheaper, because your vertical is a Homag.
Correct.
Are there cheaper Homag verticals?
There is. So ours is called the V500. They have a V200 it's smaller, has less features. It won't hold as big of boards. Doesn't have as many drill bits. Single clamp instead of double clamp. Just less features, essentially.
So they do have cheaper ones. Now, which horizontal CNC is your newest? Or have they all been? Because I know you've sold some because you had to get different ones when you got the store put in and different integrations. So I know you've recently.
Yes.
You took one to my shop and then brought it back and then.
Right. We like to move stuff.
There's been a lot of changes, but.
No, the newest ones are the 2 that are in the store.
Okay.
So they were put in February, March of this year, and it's December, so we're going on 9 months or so, a little less than 9 months. The other CNC, which is Larry, so we have Larry Curly and Mo. So Curly and Mo went in with the store. Larry, he is about a year and a half old.
So how much was the newest? Well, I guess that's hard to say because you did a 5x10 and a 4x8 with the
Yeah.
store.
They're different.
So I would assume that most people would probably start, or I guess, just what's both of them? What was the 5x10? What was the 4x8? Roughly.
So,
And again, understand that prices are always going to change. And the purpose of giving pricing information is just to help you understand where you can go or what you can expect in a specific tier. So don't take these numbers as like, this is exactly what it is, because they're always changing. Like,
they are.
It's different all the time, but it can at least give you an understanding of, okay, they bought theirs a year ago. What's the pricing now? Is it less? Is it more? Is it a little bit more? Is it significantly more? Because then you can use that information of, okay, it's $30,000 more now. Why? Because maybe, we added new features, or something changed, or parts are different, or inflation, or whatever reasoning, or it comes with different install now, or so that's the purpose of numbers, is to help you kind of understand that. So
maybe I'll walk through kind of our progression, right? So it's not just a jump from this to this. So our original CNC, we paid around.
Are you talking about the Homag ones or the Laguna?
Yeah, the Laguna we paid $23,000 for. I remember that. $23,500 is what I paid. The other CNCs. So then we bought a Homag one that was more similar to that one you were talking, kind of the entry level Homag. This one had a few more features than their entry level, fixed gates, different things, and that one we paid in the neighborhood of $85,000. And these prices, like I say, but that was a number of years ago. We decided we had a shop 10 miles from here. That's where we put it there, moved out of the garage. That's why the Laguna could sit around for so long, because we had a commercial shop. So we bought that CNC. It didn't have off-feed, didn't have any of that. Like I say, it was under $100,000. When we bought our current shop, which is the building that you're in right now, not a current shop. When we bought the shop that you're in right now, we decided to buy a material, they call it a material handling CNC. So it's really similar to Larry, which we'll do some more in-depth reviews on the machines itself. But we bought Larry, or one similar to Larry, in a 4x8 version. Great machine, loved it. Probably as far as the machines go, that thing was a workhorse. We had it for 6 years. It was still running strong when we sold it. I always told our machine rep that was my favorite machine we've ever had, because that thing, it never broke. Not that the new ones have, but it never broke. For 6 years it didn't break. The only time it ever broke was when our people did something weird, but that thing was just rock solid.
So, I know when I've run the CNC machines before, and I don't know if I've run any of these ones, but I know there was one that, if you had a little piece of wood in it and it would clamp, it would just bust the board. It would just bust whatever tiny piece was in there, versus one of the other machines, if there was a tiny piece in there, it was like, oh no, there's something here. So
right.
It's that. I think that's what you mean, is that
oh yeah,
it was just a machine. It just worked. It did its job, and
it never stopped. It was amazing. Sold it to a company when we put the store in, and they're running it strong right now. But that machine, and again, these aren't exact prices; these are range, but it was somewhere around $115,000, $120,000 when we bought that one.
So that's number 3.
That's number 3. Yep. Then we bought a machine, and we don't have that one. I sold it just 9 months ago. That one, it was a full material handling machine. So it was a 4x8 machine. You put a bunk of wood in it. That bunk of wood, it would pull it on similar to what the ones here do, but it would pull it off as a scissor lift, so it would raise the sheets up, and then it would pull those sheets and kind of run itself, if you will. That one, I believe we paid $130,000, $140,000 for, somewhere in there.
So that one, I know I've run that one before, because that's the one that you would mainly do your cabinet boxes on, because you could load a whole bunk,
a lot of production
of 3/4 inch board, and it would just feed. Because I remember, because I worked for you when my business was struggling, and we were always, we had one CNC that we'd run those on, and then we'd take the 1/4 inch boards and run it on the other one, because it was easy to manually feed those.
Yeah. Yep. But amazing machine. That was a great machine. Worked really well. Like I say, I think that was $130,000, $140,000, somewhere in there. So then fast forward to today. So then the next machine was Larry. which that's a 5x10. That's called an N500 machine. That one's more feature rich. It has dual tool changers. It'll actually hold 26 tools. It's got a little more automation built in. It's got also what's called a C-axis. So we have an aggregate, a sanding aggregate that we can use. We have other aggregates that we can buy, and we may be buying here shortly. And so that has a few more features. That machine was around 160,000, give or take a little bit.
And you still, so that's one that you currently have. So that's
Currently
number
have that
4.
one. Correct.
And you've sold the first 3.
Yeah, so we had Laguna, little one. That's number 5. Larry was number 5.
Got it.
Yeah, number 5. So we have Larry, then Curly and Mo. They were bought at the same time. I don't remember they were all wrapped up into the deal. But if I was to take a guess at what they were probably, one of them probably 170 and one of them 190, something like that for those 2 machines.
So probably the 5x10, the more expensive one,
correct.
Obviously.
And they're a little bit different. The reason they're a little bit more, they still do the pull-on, right, that comes from the store, but they also have a lot of other electronics in them so that they can talk to the store. And so they're set up for that. And so we just decided we could have had our other machines set up to go into the store, but it was quite a bit of money to do that. There's a lot of things they would have to add. It would have been down for probably a month at least, and so it wasn't worth it to us. And so we decided to buy 2 new machines, put them in the store, and sell the other ones. And really, we ended up getting a couple new machines for not a whole lot of extra money.
So instead of retrofitting the old ones to fit, just 2 new ones.
Correct.
And then the most recent one, that's only been, like a month or so? The vertical?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the last one. What's the point?
So the vertical is more of a specialty machine, although it's actually Homag's. From what I understand, it's Homag's #1 selling CNC in the world. That specific machine. And that machine, what we bought it for is to do specialty items, to do secondary operations. And so it will grab a part, so you can cut parts on your saw and put it in there, drill them, route, things in them. We'll route glass doors. We have some little pieces that we make. They're really skinny. They're about 3 inches wide, and we have to put little holes in them, and they're really small. And so on the horizontal CNCs, when you put those on a table and you're cutting tons of little holes in them, you lose your vacuum. And so this has clamps, so it'll just pull it in, clamp it, and so we're able to make those parts and not have them move around. And so we bought it to be a specialty machine. Even though you can cut on a saw and throw huge production through it, but for us, we bought it for a specialized machine.
Got it. So those are all the CNC machines. You obviously have a lot of other machines that we'll talk about on the channel, but just to give people an idea, because obviously most people are not going to go out and spend $1 million on a bunch of equipment. Between buying the Laguna and now, how many years has it been?
I bought the Laguna in 2012, I believe.
Okay. So
it's been 10 years.
10 years. But to preface the Laguna, when did you start the business?
So that's a super interesting question, right?
When did you originally start the business?
2004 is when I originally started it. And I was kind of doing it on the side, doing it to help put me through college. So
originally 2004, first CNC 2012 to basically 2023 at this point. Any advice you would give someone who wants to get into this in selecting a CNC machine? Because obviously your business changed from 2004 to 2012 and then 2012 to now. Absolutely. There's always a transition period. But if someone specifically who's like, I want a CNC machine, like what's either some advice or like some gotchas that you would just quickly, not super elaborate, just what's some advice that you'd give someone?
So if you're going to do it for commercial reasons, buy the most you can afford, because you can do more with it. And also, when you're buying a machine, make sure that machine, that you can get parts and have service. Although I told you our machines really never broke, any of them really to this point, knock on wood. We still, like I told you, our guys crashed them a few times and we would need some parts. And what I like about Homag is if I want a part, I can call them, I can overnight a part, and I can be back up and running. So to me, service is key. And we have technicians around here that are amazing. So we're able to get things when we need them. But don't be afraid to just look one step ahead, right? Don't be afraid to say, you know what, yeah, this one is 80,000, but for 115,000 I can do this much more. It's cleaner, it has this, like, find out what those features are. And for business, it's a little different, You can justify some of those things when you're in business to make things easier and faster and better.
And what I learned from Tyler was just that. Buying machines is cheaper than paying for employees. So if you can buy a machine that can either operate itself, like the first Laguna, if you were paying an employee, that's a really big expensive cost to pay an employee to wrench the tool off, to put the tool on, to measure the height versus even getting the next step up of one that just does that automatically, that has a tool changer, or getting the next one up that will automatically load or automatically offload. So for my business, I learned that from Tyler. He told me that while he didn't regret the smaller purchases, the cost of change was more expensive than it would have cost to just buy the newer machine or better machine in the first place. So that's what I've learned, which is why if you go watch my channel, Time to Make Something, a lot of people give me grief because of the expensive machines that I have. But it's his fault.
You're welcome.
So I think that about wraps it up for the CNC talk. If you guys have specific questions, leave those down in the comments, and we'll see you in the next video.
Thanks, guys.